While it may have been the E-Class that Mercedes-Benz chose to make its debut in the country with, it was really the C-Class that proved to be the big seller, putting Mercedes-Benz on the map and making it the preferred luxury car maker of the country. This right here is what kicked off the C-Class craze back in 2001. And ever since then, it's gone on to become a more plush, more premium version of itself, morphing into a baby S-Class, if you will. And that brings us to the next evolutionary step in the C-Class's journey. Now this right here is the all-new 5th generation Mercedes-Benz C-Class. As you can see, there's very little in terms of visual detail that's tying it to its predecessor other than its overall silhouette. And it's very clear that Mercedes-Benz has gone all out in trying to make this car resemble the S-Class as much as possible. The lines are cleaner, it's a more sporty, purposeful design, beefier, and there's a certain minimalism to it that's in line with Mercedes-Benz's current design language. Some of the main changes, as you can see up front, the headlamps now taper, they're cleaner. The 4 air dams, not sure if I'm a big fan of that little design feature, but on the whole, it's a very premium, it's a very luxurious looking car. And I say that because in the past, the C-Class marked the entry point into the Mercedes-Benz club. And now with the A-Class fulfilling that role, the C-Class seems to be more comfortable being more extroverted, and that's for everyone to see. Every little design detail on this is now all new. You've got all new alloys. In fact, even the boot is now a little more compact to make it look sportier. This right here is the petrol version, the C200. There's another C300D version which gets the AMG line, so you've got a slightly different looking bumper on it. But this is what's going to be the big seller and what you're going to see mostly on the roads. Other than that, there's really just one way to tell what it's good for, and that's to get behind the wheel. Now, before we take this car for a spin, let's talk about the interiors, because honestly, some of the visual changes seem even more significant when you sit inside this car. Everything is much cleaner. There are these concentric dials for the aircon vents, which also have ambient lighting around them. And my favorite feature, of course, is this vertically placed, large, almost iPad-sized touchscreen console that seamlessly blends into the cup holder section. And then there are these pinstripes which are straight out of a Maybach. The tan leather details find their way onto the door panels as well. And the steering also is very sort of freshly cut, sharp looking. There's a certain sportier element here which is visible, which perhaps the previous car didn't. It was more premium, more sort of grown up. But in this case, the Mercedes-Benz C-Class now seems like it wants to have a lot more fun. Even the view from up here, you can just see the louvres on the bonnet. The resolution on the screens is incredible because Mercedes has also given us a 3D navigation system. The touch pads on the steering are also really clean looking. We've got, of course, you can press the buttons, but for easier usage, you can just slide your thumb across these functions and they work just as well. Mercedes also says that their voice-activated Hey Mercedes system is now more intuitive, and the artificial intelligence acclimatizes itself to your own individual accent, so it'll be able to respond to your verbal commands much more easily as time progresses. It just is probably the best that the C-Class's cabin has ever looked, really, and ambient lighting is just running all over. With the absence of a few embellishments, there isn't that much apart from just sheer space that distinguishes it from its older siblings. So in terms of interiors, the C-Class seems to have done it right again. Now, I think there's only one thing to do, which is take this for a spin. So as far as first impressions go, with a 1.5 litre engine having been downsized from the previous 2-liter one, I was expecting this to feel a tad underpowered. The reason that Mercedes-Benz has gone with the smaller engine, of course, is because they feel that even the C-Class customer now is conscious about fuel economy. However, it's not entirely about efficiency here, although it's not outrightly about performance. There is a 48-volt starter generator system which gives an additional 20 bhp, which added to the 201 bhp available is a fairly decent and sufficient 222 odd bhp. So especially on roads like these, winding mountain roads, at no point does it feel overwhelmed or underpowered. Currently in sport mode, I have to say the steering is on the lighter side, but the ride quality seems pretty balanced. Yes, it's on the stiffer side, but I think Merc has managed to make this car a decent enough balance between comfort. Although outright thrill, I think you're likely to go for the 300D for that. It certainly feels like a very premium place to be in, and I think that makes a big difference to the C-Class buyer, because I don't think just sheer performance is what's going to be on their mind, or for that matter even how the steering feels. A large part of its performance is down to the fact that Merc's proprietary 9-speed gearbox is very intuitive, and the upshifts are practically imperceptible, and even on long stretches when you mash the throttle, that's what comes to the engine's rescue and makes the driving experience just a lot better. And at the higher end, the engine does sound a bit strained. However, given the times that we're living in and the fact that downsizing is the only way forward, this is something we're going to have to get accustomed to, especially when the power levels prove more than sufficient, which they evidently do in this case, because whenever you do need power, you always find there's enough of it available. This car is also high on torque, so that isn't an issue either. It kind of has a way of settling itself on highways, and you can just cruise about at about 120, no problem. Do you really need more than that? Well, that's really subjective, but as far as within the legal limits, the kind of performance that can be enjoyed, the C-Class has ample to offer. So, how would I like to summarize this car? Well, it's arguably the most sophisticated that the C-Class has been. Yes, there'll always be a trade-off or two. It's low on cubic capacity, but it's higher on power. It's also higher in efficiency, and it's a reality that's becoming incredibly hard to ignore for people who are using fossil fuel-driven cars. So, on that front, it's pretty much better in every single way. And when you're dealing with cars like the C-Class, it's an incredibly challenging task to find really glaring errors in it. Yes, okay, I don't like the fact that there are no ventilated seats, considering that this will be more expensive than the car that it replaces. But it does feel significantly different in its overall vibe, and I think that does make a difference going forward. I love the layout of the dashboard. I love the resolution on the screen, just how accessible everything feels. Yes, a few solid buttons and knobs are always preferable and more ergonomic, but it really doesn't make that much of a difference. Power levels, again, at no point does it really leave you wanting for more power, and it's not really designed for just outright thrilling performance. The C-Class is still very much a gentleman's luxury car, and a few embellishments don't really change that. I mean, yes, you have this sporty display, and its overall visual grammar is also a little more aggressive, and that just makes for an all over nicer looking vehicle. Can it take on its rivals? I think there's a certain sense of quality that you get in a C-Class, and it really depends on how you're predisposed to view Mercs. Merc also allowed former Mercedes-Benz owners to be able to pre-book this car from the month of April. The rest are going to have to book it from May 1st onwards. But I suspect a good chunk have already pre-booked it. We don't really know what kind of waiting periods come with a car like this, given that the supply chain issue is still prevalent and Mercedes is doing whatever it can to overcome those. But the demand in general in the first quarter has been high, so it wouldn't really be surprising to see people just go in for the C-Class in hordes. And when they do, I think they will be rewarded by a car that feels extremely contemporary, very stylish, comfortable, and I think just given the increase, the 7mm increase in ride height, the 21mm increase in legroom, I think all in all, it's a pretty holistic, wholesome package. And for now, that's got to be more than enough.